what the Rams can learn from the Eagles that can help them win a Super Bowl next year. And we've got the latest on Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you want to do me a huge favor, subscribe to the fastest growing Rams YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, hit the like button. Getting close to 16,000 comments, and throughout the entire offseason, I'm going to be reading your comments and featuring them on this show for our mailbag episodes. Going to get you guys involved. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 Sports, Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation, SI. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo. Travis Rogers out today, but we'll be back at full strength tomorrow. He's been out a little sick. But we got a jam-packed show. We're talking the latest of Matthew Stafford, the latest with Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford's wife had some interesting comments about her husband's future. But I want to start today with giving a shout out to our friends over at FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So go to FanDuel to get started. But I also want to start today with what do we learn from the Eagles in their run against the Rams, against the Commanders, against the Chiefs. I mean, we all know that this Rams team was so close to knocking off this Eagles team in a snowstorm in Philly. This Rams team could have set up an NFC Championship game at home against a rookie quarterback to go to the Super Bowl. Who knows what would have happened against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and if Patrick Mahomes would have had his worst game against the Rams. We'll never know, but I think you do know that based on how this Rams team played that Philly team, and yes, beat the Packers, they beat the Rams, they beat the Commanders, they beat the Chiefs, had a really nice run. This Rams team went toe-to-toe with the eventual Super Bowl champions, and the question I had was, what can we learn from the Eagles? Watching yesterday's game, the first thing that I took away from it that the Rams could learn from is, yes, you do build Super Bowl champions in the draft, and we've seen the Rams hit on Puka Nacua, they hit on Jared Verse, list goes on and on, but how about free agency? Free agency can be the difference for this Rams team. If they did as well in free agency as they did in the draft for the last couple years, I think the Rams do win the Super Bowl this season. As crazy as that sounds. I mean, really, it's not that crazy when you look at how close they were to beating this team, and they had so many signings that did not go their way. Colby Parkinson didn't work out. Tre'Davious White didn't work out. Their big free agent offseason signing, Jonah Jackson, he really didn't work out. You had a 6th-round pick, Bo Limmer, taking over at center. They said, nah, we're good. No Jonah Jackson. Look at the Eagles, though. What'd they do? Saquon Barkley. Giants said, no, we don't want Saquon. Let him go to the division. Put up one of the best seasons we've ever had for a running back. Was outstanding for the Eagles. Zach Bond, the play he made yesterday. Fantastic. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Becton, Oren Burks. They hit on free agency, and they brought in players. They brought in a group of guys that had a major impact in year one. So the Eagles and the Rams, the biggest difference is the Eagles, they have crushed it in the draft. I mean, Cooper DeJean, he was great. Jalen Carter, he was great. But they've also hit in free agency. So that's what I'm looking at. Can the Rams do it in free agency this offseason, maybe bring in another dynamic playmaker, maybe solidify this offensive line, maybe add a linebacker, a cornerback? Can you? And then it wasn't all bad. I mean, Darius Williams had his moments too. I mean, there were some hits for free agency, but the big guys, they struck out on. So can you hit in free agency? I think that's going to be big. Second thing, explosive plays. The Rams need a dynamic, explosive receiver to pair with Cooper Kupp. Yesterday, the Eagles, Devontae Smith, 46-yard catch. A.J. Brown was great. Saquon Barkley, he was explosive all throughout the season and in the postseason. The Rams, Kyron Williams, he had 2 runs in the regular season that were for more than 18 yards. Puka Nacua, he can break a big one on you, but it's not that field-stretching, explosive wide receiver that I think that can even help you optimize Puka Nacua even more. Get that guy that can take the top off the defense, stretch the field, and then you don't need to rely on 10 to 15 play drives. Then you can get those explosives sometimes. And I think that this Rams offense, they have to execute so well and play mistake-free football for such long stretches that it costs the offense during the regular season. We saw big slumps throughout parts of the season. That's because it was a little clunky. You didn't get those big, let's push the ball downfield with elite wide receivers. You just didn't see that as often as you could, potentially, when you consider you had a quarterback that has an incredible arm like Matthew Stafford. So I want a shiny new toy. I want an explosive receiver for this Rams offense. I think it could take them to the next level. Third thing that I think we learned yesterday was if you can generate pressure with your front four and not have to rely on blitzes, you can send people back into coverage, send everyone back into coverage, and get after the quarterback, it makes a world of a difference. Yesterday, the Eagles blitzed exactly 0 times, and they end up with 6 sacks and 10 QB hits. They were making life miserable for Patrick Mahomes. They didn't blitz once on 42 Patrick Mahomes dropbacks. Created 16 pressures, 6 sacks. I mean, that's incredible. And you look at the Rams' current front four, you have Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Byron Young, Jared Verst. That's one of the best young pass rushing cores in the National Football League. So you need those guys to continue to develop and have the ability to win their one-on-ones and get to the quarterback so you don't have to send guys in blitz and then you compromise your defense a little bit. So we learned that yesterday. If you can get after the QB, and I think that's something that really makes me excited about the future of the Rams. So when I saw that defensive line yesterday getting after it, the Rams have those kind of dogs that, yeah, they're not quite there yet, but the potential certainly is there to have a explosive defense, just like the Eagles do. And the Eagles have a lot of young players. I mean, Jared Verse, he literally led the league in pressures. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. That's how good he is. In first part of the season, he was missing tackles. So that was massive. And on the other side of the football, on the offensive line, we know how important that is. We know how important that is. So the fourth thing that I really took away from this game is let's get the best version of the Rams offensive line. I mean, Alec Jackson, he set himself up for a really nice payday. They whiffed on Jonah Jackson. Steve Avila had some ups and downs this season. Rob Havenstein is getting a little up there. Kevin Dotson has been great in the run game. You bring him back. Is Bo Limmer the center of your future? That's kind of a big question. But the Rams, they weren't able to get to Jalen Hurts. And the Eagles, they're a great example of, hey, we're going to protect QB1 and we're going to allow him to make plays and we're going to allow this offensive line to open up holes too. So I think you saw yesterday Jalen Hurts, they didn't have any fingerprints on him. I mean, he had all time to throw, surveying the field, finding open guys downfield, and the Chiefs, they were stacking the box to try to stop Saquon Barkley. So I think the priority for the Rams has to certainly be right at the top. Get an offensive line that you can trust to protect Matthew Stafford, to give him that kind of time. I mean, just look at the play that essentially ended the Rams season. Jalen Carter blowing past Bo Limmer and getting to Matthew Stafford. If Matthew Stafford has protection on that play, he's probably hitting Tyler Higbee over the middle. You're probably seeing a continuation of that drive and possibly winning that game in heroic late-game fashion. That is how important it is. I do think you want to bring Alec Jackson back. I definitely am a fan of potentially doing that. But that is the big question. That is the big question. Can you go about that and do those 5 things and go out there and find a way to win? The other thing, too, kind of want to point out, too, as the fifth reason, too, is you can have a combination of young players that make big plays and then veterans, too. And we saw Cooper DeJean in year one, a cornerback. That's kind of my big takeaway. We need the Rams to have better cornerback play, guys that can make big plays in big spots. Cooper DeJean baited a future Hall of Famer, guys in the GOAT talk, into an interception he took back for 6. So don't be afraid to draft a quarterback in the first round if you're Les Snead, Sean McVay in this Rams team, because you have Matthew Stafford. It's just about adding some defense and some depth in key positions, and you're right there. You're so close. But coming up next, we got the latest on Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easier to post your jobs for free, share with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of all small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Also, if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button over on YouTube, getting close to 16,000 subscribers. And also, now is a great time to join the Everyday Listeners Club. Super Bowls, they're made in the offseason, through free agency, through the draft. You have a lot of moving parts for this Rams team. It's going to be very exciting and not a lot of football to watch. So listen and watch us talk about football so we can really, really lock on this offseason so we don't miss a thing about our Los Angeles Rams. Now, there has been a lot of speculation about Matthew Stafford this offseason. The Giants, they hired Matthew Stafford's brother-in-law for a role. You had Malik Neighbors tweeting out 9 in a Rams emoji and a 10 in a Rams emoji. There's been a lot of speculation, but a lot of people within the industry, and I've talked to people as well, they really do feel like Matthew Stafford ultimately is going to end up back with the Los Angeles Rams. ESPN Jeremy Fowler, he wrote recently, by all accounts, Stafford was happy with the direction of the offense this season, and multiple people with this team say it doesn't seem as if changes are coming, but other teams will inevitably call the Rams to gauge trade interest anyway. Stafford will be the top quarterback available if Los Angeles entertains the idea of moving him. And then there was another report by Dan Graziano of ESPN, who had some encouraging news about Matthew Stafford's future if you're a Rams fan. He wrote, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is likely to return to LA in 2025, according to sources close to the situation. The past 2 seasons have been good for Stafford, who turned 37 on Friday and believes the Rams leadership gives them the ability to contend every year. And that's the number one thing. At this stage of his career, it's closer to 40 than he is to 30. He wants to contend for a Super Bowl title. He wants to raise that Lombardi trophy again. And he realized that, hey, this is a Rams organization that they're committed to winning. They want to extend his championship window. You have an elite head coach in place, elite quarterback. You picked up on Puka Nacua, who's been outstanding. You've put in work to solidify this offensive line. You've drafted very, very well. You're really just a couple of pieces away from winning a title. And I think if you're Matthew Stafford, it comes down to how much do you believe in yourself and your ability to still be able to win a Super Bowl at this stage of your career. Because if the answer is yes, then there's really not many organizations out there that are going to give you a better situation and a better chance to win at the highest level than the Los Angeles Rams. They're not going to be cheap. They're going to do everything they can to acquire talent. They also have great scouting. They have the vision. They understand how to bring in guys that can help you get over the hump. And just to rewind a little bit on Matthew Stafford's contract, they reworked the contract last summer. And essentially what that did was it turned it into a 1-year deal worth $40 million. And there's not a lot of guaranteed money left. If he wants to be back, if they want him back, they're going to have to negotiate a new contract. Now, interestingly enough, his wife, Kelly, who has a podcast, who has been known to say some interesting stuff on her show as it relates to her husband, she said about her husband, Stafford, quote, wants to win. And she said he doesn't want to, quote, put a team in a bad situation. So he's theoretically not in a bad situation now. He's in a great situation with the Rams. But financially, she's making it seem like, are you going to put them in a bad situation to do anything that would limit their ability to acquire talent at other positions? She said, my husband wants to win. He's not trying to put a team in a bad situation. If you're catching my drift, you're catching my drift. I will say the trading away of Cooper, I'm confused because we were one play away from going to the NFC Championship. And I think if we go, we win. I have to be the dog in the situation, being like, I want the respect for him that he deserves. Yes, I love the city of LA. I love the city of LA. With that being said, I love an adventure. So interesting comments, trying to leave it a little open-ended there. The truth of the matter is if we're just looking at Cooper Kupp as a player and the cost of Cooper Kupp, it doesn't make sense if you want to add another weapon. I mean, you're not paying Cooper Kupp $20+ million. He's not performing at that level. And like I said, when it comes to financial security, the Rams are going to be fine with paying Matthew Stafford. He doesn't have very much guaranteed money because of pushing that contract forward like they did. They'll find a way to get a deal done. So I would be shocked if Matthew Stafford does not return. I've heard the similar sentiment as far as his future in LA, that, look, he likes it here. He does. They have a lifestyle here. They don't want to uproot their family, and they know that Sean McVay, the Rams aren't going to waste Sean McVay's time. The Rams fully believe that they have the best coach in the National Football League with a lot of young talent, and they're a few pieces away from raising another Lombardi trophy. So it's only a matter of time until we get word about Matthew Stafford's future, unless they feel great about another quarterback out there in the draft, which there's really a lot of question marks about guys like Jador Sanders. I mean, Justin Fields available, but it could take 5, 10, 15, 20 years before you get another quarterback that's even close to being as good as Matthew Stafford. When you get someone like Matthew Stafford, you do every single thing in your power to make sure you keep him for as long as you can. He was showing throughout the entire season that he still has it. They made the playoffs the last 2 years with Matthew Stafford. He is still great when he's healthy. I'd venture to say he's still a top 5 to 10 quarterback in the league. And when he's on, he has moments where he's a number one quarterback. I mean, that's how good his arm is. Matthew Stafford has one of the top 10 arms to ever lace him up. You better get a deal done, or you're going to regret it for decades. You have a Super Bowl winning quarterback, find a way to get a deal done. Now, as far as Cooper Kupp, we got the latest for that. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. And there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so the Rams and Cooper Kupp, they're going to part ways. It's inevitable at this point. it's sad to say and talk about this, but the truth of the matter is look, I mean, he was Super Bowl MVP for this team. He feels like a Rams for life type of player. Whenever he hangs them up, I hope that they reunite. You saw Todd Gurley kind of back in the mix, and yes, sometimes it just hurts. It hurts because you really develop bonds with these players and what they've meant to your organization. Now, I found it interesting, this new nugget about the Rams not being interested at all in restructuring Cooper Kupp's contract. And this came out from an NFL insider recently, and quote, a league source said the Rams did not directly ask Kupp to restructure his existing contract in order to stay in LA. Although, to make a trade more appealing to prospective teams, an adjusted contract is still likely a possibility. It's from NFL.com. Now, a restructure is very different, right? A restructure is when a team takes a player's base salary, they convert it into a signing bonus, which in effect, that lowers the cap hit for the team. The player isn't taking less money. It's not a pay cut. The Rams, they could save up to $9.3 million in 2025 cap space if they do restructure Cooper Kupp's contract. But one of the reasons the team would not want to do that is it would make the receiver, Cooper Kupp himself, more expensive to trade or release. So I think from this standpoint, we've seen this before. We've seen Sean McVay handle exits like this before. Robert Woods, Brandon Cook, Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, talking about how great they are, and then they're on different teams or things don't end well for them. McVay said essentially to us that he's become a liability on the offensive side of the football and that he has an inability to beat single coverage and he wants to have more of a vertical threat. I mean, those are all signals to Les in the front office that he wants another weapon to score more points, to have a better offense. So I think at this point, it's inevitable. I don't think that Cooper Kupp is going to be back with the Rams, and it hurts me to say this, but I hope one of the reasons why you guys turn to the show is the show that keeps it 100 about the Rams, right? I mean, would you rather just us tell you the truth about the current situation or try to sugarcoat it for you guys? And the truth is just not sugarcoating it. I mean, look, the truth is the average length of a career is 3 years. Right? About 40% of the roster in the NFL changes every single year. It happens. It's only a matter of time. Torrey Holt, he's gone. He didn't end his career with the Rams. Isaac Bruce didn't end his career with the Rams. I mean, it happens. And I think in Cooper Kupp's case, he's clearly not happy about it. And it's understandable and frustrating for him. But if the Rams handled every situation with just the emotional pull of, okay, we're going to keep a guy because of what he's meant for us and this and that, then you would ultimately not be giving yourself the best chance to win. At some point, you have to have tough conversations with your team and your coaches, and your roster build has to reflect that. So that's the latest with Cooper Kupp. They weren't doing the restructure for him, and it's only a matter of time until they find a destination for him, possibly. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.